Sophie and Emma had been planning this shopping trip for weeks. It was the first sunny Saturday in a long time, and they were excited to spend the whole day exploring their favorite stores in the city. They met at the train station early in the morning, both dressed in stylish but comfortable outfits. Sophie wore a light blue dress with white sneakers, while Emma had chosen a pair of jeans, a pink blouse, and her favorite brown boots. "I can't wait to check out the new fashion collection at Zara," Sophie said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "And I need a new bag," Emma added. "Something classy but big enough for all my stuff." The train ride was short, filled with laughter and discussions about what they were looking for. As soon as they arrived in the city center, they headed straight for the mall. The first store they entered was bright and modern, filled with colorful summer dresses and trendy accessories. Sophie picked up a green dress and held it against her body. "What do you think?" she asked. Emma tilted her head. "It's nice, but try the yellow one. It matches your eyes." Sophie laughed and went into the fitting room. Meanwhile, Emma wandered around the store, touching the soft fabrics and admiring the elegant designs. She found a stylish leather bag and immediately fell in love with it. When Sophie came out, wearing the yellow dress, Emma gasped. "You look amazing. You have to get it." After making their first purchases, the girls continued their adventure, stopping at different shops, trying on shoes, and even testing out some fancy perfumes. By lunchtime, they were exhausted but happy. They found a cozy cafe with a view of the city square and ordered cappuccinos and croissants. "This is the best day ever," Emma sighed, stretching her legs. "And it's not over yet," Sophie reminded her with a playful smile. After finishing their cappuccinos, Sophie and Emma stepped out into the busy city streets, ready for more shopping. The sun was shining brightly, and the fresh spring air made them feel even more excited. "Where to next?" Sophie asked, adjusting the shopping bags in her hands. Emma checked her phone. "There's a new boutique around the corner. People say they have unique designs and great discounts." They walked through the narrow streets until they found the small shop, hidden between a bookstore and a flower shop. A golden sign above the door read "Eleanor's Elegance." The store looked expensive, with mannequins dressed in stylish, sophisticated outfits. Sophie hesitated. Are you sure this place has discounts? Emma grinned. Only one way to find out. Inside, the boutique had a luxurious atmosphere. Soft jazz music played in the background, and the air smelled like vanilla and roses. The clothes were elegant, silk blouses, tailored dresses, and beautifully embroidered jackets. A friendly shop assistant approached them. "Welcome, ladies. Let me know if you need any help." Sophie and Emma started browsing. Emma found a beautiful burgundy handbag, but when she checked the price tag, she gasped. "Sophie, this bag costs more than my monthly rent." Sophie laughed. "Maybe it's on sale?" Just as Emma was putting the bag back, something unusual happened. A woman standing near them suddenly dropped a small velvet box. It fell to the floor and opened slightly, revealing a sparkling diamond necklace inside. The woman, who looked elegant but nervous, quickly picked it up, glancing around as if she was afraid someone had seen it. Then, she hurried towards the exit without buying anything. Emma and Sophie exchanged looks. "That was weird," Sophie whispered. "Do you think she stole it?" Emma asked, her curiosity growing. Before they could say anything else, the shop assistant rushed past them and called out, "Excuse me, ma'am. You forgot your receipt." The woman turned around, looking pale. Then, without warning, she ran out of the shop. Sophie and Emma stood frozen for a second. "Did we just witness a crime?" Sophie finally asked. Emma grabbed her friend's hand. "I think we did. And I think we should follow her." Sophie and Emma exchanged a quick glance before dashing out of the boutique. The mysterious woman was already halfway down the street, walking quickly, her heels clicking against the pavement. "Are we really doing this?" Sophie asked, breathless as they tried to keep up. Emma grinned. "Of course. How often do you get to solve a mystery during a shopping trip?" The woman turned a corner, disappearing into a side alley. Sophie and Emma followed cautiously, trying not to be noticed. The alley was quieter than the busy shopping street, lined with old brick buildings and a few parked bicycles. The woman slowed her pace and glanced over her shoulder, looking nervous. "She knows someone is watching her," Sophie whispered. "Let's pretend we're just passing by Emma suggested. She grabbed Sophie's arm, and they casually walked ahead, pretending to admire a vintage clothing store's window display. Out of the corner of her eye, Emma saw the woman enter a small cafe. "Should we go in?" Sophie asked. Emma nodded. "Let's act normal." They stepped inside. The cafe was cozy, with wooden tables and warm lighting. The air smelled of fresh coffee and cinnamon rolls. The mysterious woman sat at a corner table, nervously checking her phone. In front of her was a half-empty cup of tea. Sophie and Emma sat at a nearby table, trying to look casual. "What now?" Sophie whispered. "We listen," Emma replied. "Maybe we'll hear something useful." Just then, a man in a dark coat entered the cafe. He walked straight to the woman's table and sat down without a word. The woman looked even more nervous now. Emma pretended to read the menu while secretly listening to their conversation. "Did you get it?" the man asked in a low voice. The woman nodded and placed the small velvet box on the table. "It wasn't easy. Someone almost saw me." Sophie and Emma exchanged looks. "What do we do?" Sophie mouthed silently. Emma hesitated. "I think we just found ourselves in the middle of something serious." Sophie and Emma tried to act natural, but their hearts were racing. The cafe, once warm and inviting, now felt like the setting of a crime novel. The man took the velvet box and opened it slightly, just enough to check the contents. A smirk appeared on his face. "Good," he said. "You did well. But we're not safe yet." The woman wiped her sweaty palms on her skirt. "I think someone saw me," she whispered, glancing around the cafe. Emma immediately lowered her menu to hide her face. Sophie picked up her coffee and took a slow sip, pretending not to listen. The man leaned in. "We need to leave. The buyer is waiting. Take the back exit." He stood up and adjusted his coat. The woman hesitated, then grabbed her purse and followed him towards a small hallway at the back of the cafe. Emma grabbed Sophie's hand. "We can't let them get away." "Are you crazy?" Sophie whispered back. "What if they're dangerous?" Emma thought for a second. Then we have to be careful. Let's just see where they go. The girls quickly paid for their coffee and slipped past the tables, heading for the back exit. A narrow corridor led to a door marked "Staff Only," which was slowly swinging shut. Sophie hesitated, but Emma pushed forward. She carefully opened the door a crack and peeked outside. Behind the cafe was a dimly lit alley, where the man and woman were getting into a sleek black car. The engine roared to life. "They're leaving," Sophie whispered urgently. Emma quickly pulled out her phone. "I'll take a photo of the license plate." But just as she lifted her phone, the man suddenly turned his head, his sharp blue eyes locking onto hers. For a moment, time froze. Then, he stepped out of the car. Emma's heart pounded. "Oh," she muttered. Sophie grabbed her arm. "Run!" The girls bolted back inside, rushing through the cafe and out onto the main street, pushing past confused customers. Behind them, the cafe door burst open. "Hey! Stop!" the man's deep voice shouted. Emma and Sophie ran as fast as they could, weaving through the busy crowd. They didn't know where they were going. All they knew was that they had just made themselves targets in a dangerous game. Sophie and Emma ran through the crowded street, their hearts pounding like drums. They could still hear the man's voice behind them, but the sound of the busy city helped them blend in. "We need to get somewhere safe," Sophie gasped, clutching Emma's hand. Emma nodded. "The police station. It's a few blocks away." They sprinted through the streets, dodging shoppers and street vendors. Finally, the familiar blue and white sign of the city police department came into view. They burst through the glass doors, breathless. A young officer at the front desk looked up in surprise. "Are you okay?" "We need to report a crime," Sophie managed to say between breaths. The officer's face turned serious. "All right, calm down. Tell me everything." The girls quickly explained what had happened: the mysterious woman, the velvet box with the diamond necklace, the suspicious man, and the chase through the city. The officer, whose name tag read Officer Harris, listened carefully, taking notes. When they finished, he leaned back in his chair. "This is serious." The description you gave matches a known jewelry smuggling ring we've been tracking for months. Emma's eyes widened. Smugglers? Harris nodded. They steal expensive jewelry, then sell it to buyers on the black market. If they noticed you spying on them, you could be in danger. Sophie shivered. What should we do? The officer thought for a moment. Did you get a photo of their license plate? Emma bit her lip. I tried, but I think they saw me before I could take it. That's okay, Harris said. We'll check security cameras in the area. But I need you both to be careful. If they find out you reported them, they might try to silence you. Sophie and Emma exchanged nervous glances. This was getting even more serious than they had imagined. Can we help? Emma asked suddenly. Harris raised an eyebrow. Help? Emma nodded. We're the only ones who saw them up close. Maybe we can recognize them somewhere. The officer hesitated. I shouldn't involve civilians in an investigation. But we're already involved, Sophie pointed out. And we don't want them to get away. Harris sighed. All right. But you follow my rules. No taking risks, no confronting them alone. Understood? The girls nodded eagerly. Good. Now, let's catch these criminals. The next morning, Sophie and Emma met Officer Harris at the police station. He had already gathered some information and seemed more serious than before. All right, we've checked the cameras along the street where you saw them. The car they were driving doesn't belong to anyone on the system, but we found something interesting, Harris said, pulling up a photo on his phone. It was a blurry shot of the woman and the man, walking out of the cafe. They were just a few feet from the alley where Emma and Sophie had chased them. That's them, Sophie exclaimed, pointing at the photo. It's the same man and woman. Yep, Harris nodded, but we still don't have their names. That's where you come in. Us? Emma asked, unsure. You two got a close look at them. We need you to look through some photos and see if you recognize their faces. We're compiling a list of known criminals who match their descriptions, but I need your help to make sure we get the right people. Sophie and Emma exchanged glances. They had no idea this would become so dangerous, but they couldn't back down now. The officer led them to a room filled with photos and files. There were stacks of pictures of people with names underneath, some looking like ordinary citizens, others like dangerous criminals. They sat at the table and began flipping through the files. After what seemed like hours, Sophie pointed to a photo. "Wait, this guy. He looks like the man from the cafe." Emma leaned over, narrowing her eyes. "Yeah, it's definitely him. His eyes are the same." "That's Vincent LeClaire," Harris said, walking over to their table. "A known smuggler. He's been connected to several high-profile jewelry thefts around the city. And this woman," he flipped to the next photo. "That's her," Emma said quickly. Harris raised an eyebrow. "You're sure?" "Absolutely," Sophie replied. "It's the same woman." The photo showed a woman named Clara Duval. She had a similar look, tall, with dark hair and a sharp, serious expression. "She's his partner in crime," Harris explained. "They've been working together for years." "If you saw them together, it means they were probably in the middle of a deal." Sophie bit her lip. "So, they're even more dangerous than we thought." Harris nodded. "Yes. And now we need to find out where they're hiding the jewelry. We've been trying to track down their storage spots, but they're very careful." Suddenly, Emma's phone buzzed. It was a text from her brother. "Max, I just saw something weird. I think I saw that woman, Clara, near the old warehouse district. She was talking to someone, and it didn't look good." Emma's eyes widened. Max just saw her. Near the warehouse district. Harris's eyes lit up. "That's a lead. We need to check it out immediately. Are you two ready?" Without hesitation, Sophie and Emma stood up. "Let's go." The warehouse district was dark and quiet, located on the outskirts of the city. Old factories and abandoned buildings lined the streets, and the area had a strange, eerie atmosphere. As Sophie and Emma, along with Officer Harris, drove into the district, the sound of the car tires on the cracked pavement seemed louder than usual. "There's the spot," Harris said, pointing at a dark building in the distance. "That's the old warehouse Max mentioned." Let's be careful. They parked the car a few blocks away and approached the building on foot, trying to stay hidden in the shadows. The air was cold and damp, and every small sound echoed in the silence. Sophie's heart raced. "What do you think they're doing here?" "They're probably hiding something," Emma replied. "The jewelry, maybe." They crept closer to the entrance of the warehouse. Through the cracked windows, they could see dim figures moving inside. "I think I see them," Sophie whispered. "It's Clara and Vincent. They're talking to someone." Officer Harris pulled out his radio. "We need backup. Get ready." Just as they were about to move closer, a loud noise interrupted their plans. A door slammed open, and 3 men rushed out of the warehouse, carrying large boxes. "Stay low," Harris ordered. Sophie and Emma quickly ducked behind a stack of wooden crates, holding their breath. Through the gaps in the crates, they could see the men loading the boxes into the back of a van. "This is it," Harris muttered. "We've got them. We need to wait for backup and make a move when the time's right." But as they watched the men, one of them looked in their direction, eyes narrowing. It was too late to hide. The man shouted, "They're here. Run!" The moment the man shouted, the atmosphere changed instantly. Sophie's heart skipped a beat, and before she could react, Officer Harris grabbed her arm and pulled her behind the crates. "They know we're here," he said, his voice low and urgent. "We need to get to the back exit. Quickly." Sophie and Emma nodded, trying to stay calm. They followed Harris, keeping low to the ground, moving as quietly as possible. But just as they reached the corner of the warehouse, a sharp voice rang out from behind them. "Stop right there." The man who had spotted them earlier had sprinted after them, holding a gun. Sophie froze. Emma grabbed her arm, pulling her into a narrow alley between 2 buildings. "We can't let him catch us," she hissed. They sprinted through the alley, with the sound of footsteps growing louder behind them. Sophie's breath came in short gasps as they rounded another corner, only to find themselves at a dead end. The man was closing in fast. They had nowhere to run. Suddenly, a car screeched to a halt right at the end of the alley, blocking the man's path. It was Harris. He'd circled around the block and came to their rescue. The man stopped in his tracks, glaring at Harris. "You think you can stop me?" Harris stepped out of the car, his hand on his gun. "It's over, LeClaire. We've got you surrounded." Sophie and Emma watched in shock as the man hesitated, then backed up slowly, his eyes darting around for a way out. But before he could make another move, 3 police cars appeared at the other end of the alley, lights flashing. The woman, Clara, stepped out from behind a stack of boxes, holding her hands up. "Don't shoot," she yelled, panic in her voice. "We're done. We'll give up." LeClaire cursed under his breath, realizing there was no escape. Harris nodded to the officers. "Take them both into custody." The police quickly moved in and arrested LeClaire and Clara, handcuffing them tightly. Sophie and Emma stood there, still in shock, trying to process everything that had just happened. "You two did a great job," Harris said, giving them a nod of approval. "We couldn't have done it without you." Sophie's legs were shaking. "That was too close," she murmured. Emma let out a breath of relief. "I can't believe it's finally over." The police took LeClaire and Clara away, and Harris turned to the girls. "We'll get all the stolen jewelry back, and you'll be safe now. You helped stop a dangerous criminal ring." Sophie smiled weakly. "I think we've had enough excitement for one lifetime." Emma laughed. "Yeah, I'm definitely done with chasing criminals. Next time, let's just go shopping, all right?" Harris grinned. "Next time, I'll let you pick the store." As the girls watched the police cars drive off, they knew that this day would go down in history as the most unexpected shopping adventure of their lives. And though they were happy it was over, they couldn't help but feel a little proud of their role in solving the mystery. They'd started the day looking for a new dress, but they'd ended it as unexpected heroes. And the best part? They still had time for a coffee.